Hello, everyone. I'm Jacob. I'm a staff writer for Sacred Earth Journeys, and in this conversation, I connect with Puma Quispe Singona in his hometown of Chinchero, Peru. Puma is a keeper of ancient wisdom, a medicine man, and global healer who has been walking the path of a traditional Andean medicine man since he was 6 years old. After a beautiful prayer for our personal and planetary healing, Puma shares about the rituals, prayers, energy work, and unique cosmovision of his lineage, passed down orally for thousands of years, and to him personally by his grandfather from an early age. As we delve into our annual pilgrimage to Peru, called Heart of the Pachamama, scheduled for late September this year, Puma explains why this journey is a pilgrimage of initiation, of self-discovery, of healing, of awakening. He reveals why we travel to these unique, powerful, energetic centers that the ancestors have been journeying to for thousands of years, to reclaim our absolute freedom and our absolute well-being. We learn what alchemical treasures we can take from these beautiful lands, and how we can gain direction and purpose, and how we can transform our daily lives when we return back home. Finally, Puma explains why he and his community are ready to share this knowledge now with the global community, and why it is so important, especially in these difficult times. Enjoy this conversation with Puma. Hello, for anyone tuning in. We are here with Puma Quispe Singona, and he is going to be beginning this conversation with an introductory ceremony.
Hello, everybody. This prayer is with this beautiful communion and connection with Mother Earth. We're in times of powerful healing. We're in times of major awakening. So this prayer is from the highlands of Chinchero, Peru. And with these powerful allies we have as the condor. The condor is a spirit that has the lightest heart of all beings on the planet, because it's the highest flying bird on the planet. It can fly up to 7,000 meters above sea level. So for this reason, the condor medicine represents having a light heart. May you be in your hearts not heavy with whatever processes you're going through right now. So this prayer is for you to be free of whatever struggles, whatever hard processes. So I'm going to call on Pachamama and the condor spirits for you. Sacred Condor Spirit. Sacred Mother Earth, Cosmic Father, Cosmic Mother, I pray to you in the name of all my brothers and sisters throughout the planet, for them to be free, for them to be with a light heart, for them to be protected from any hard processes, from any struggles, from any sufferings. Thank you, my brothers.
Thank you, Puma. That was a very beautiful, grounded way to begin our talk. So I'd just like to begin with maybe a little bit about where you're at right now, whether that be geographically, mentally, spiritually, maybe telling us a little bit about your day, just to kind of get us grounded in a lighthearted way in the conversation.
We are here up in the mountains in the highlands of Chinchero. We are in a community above the sacred valley of the Incas, near the Cusco region, and we are at 3,800 meters above sea level. At this altitude, in these highlands, we're always in connection with Mother Earth, and we're always in ceremony, especially in these days, because of these processes that are happening globally. our collective family and community throughout the planet are going through a lot of process of fear, through a lot of process of transformation and healing. And as our tradition is to pray, is to perform rituals and ceremonies for the well-being of our community, we are here always in ceremony, supporting and assisting our vulnerable ones, especially our elders and our children in these difficult times. Most importantly, what we need to take care of is our emotional well-being. Most importantly, we need to reconnect with Mother Earth, with her sacred land, with the beautiful nature, with this powerful healing nature. So normally when I'm not journeying with our sacred earth journeys and our visiting the communities, the power places, the ancient sites that our ancestors have left for us, we are here in ceremony from home, assisting and helping our family throughout the planet.
That was a beautiful reflection. Thanks, Puma. So we are going to get into talking a bit about specifics surrounding the pilgrimage, but first, I think anyone listening in really wants to get to know you a bit better, and just your journey and what's brought you to walk this path, as walk the medicine path. So from my understanding, you began studying with your grandfather at a very, very young age. So I just want to ask, what was that like? And who was your grandfather at the time? What was his role in the community? And did you kind of have a strong inclination to begin this journey even at such a young age?
Yes, Jacob. For example, I was trained by my grandfather since I was 6 years old. Mm-hmm. He was the last medicine man in this community of, carriers of lineages of thousands of years. And many of our elders were passing without leaving this lineage, without giving it, because it's an oral tradition. Many times, a lot of people don't pass on these sacred traditions. So my grandfather was training me in the arts of rituals, prayers, energy work, and cosmovision, unique cosmovision, like the way our ancestors used to see life, the way they used to see the cosmos, the way they used to see our Milky Way. These traditions were passed on to me by my grandfather ever since I was 6 years old. So for me, it began as if I was playing. It started very early, and it was just like a child's play. And I grew up learning these traditions and these rituals. So as a medicine man, as a global healer, I am always also as a leader in our community, sharing and teaching these traditions to as many young people as we can here.
Beautiful. So this idea is interesting that your grandfather seems to be, aside from you now, he was kind of the final person to hold this knowledge, and that's due to obviously probably inclination, things to do with conquest and colonialism, but also because it's an oral tradition. So I wanted to know, and maybe our viewers would like to know, who was your grandfather's teacher?
So in ancient times, every generation would learn from the elders these traditions. Because our culture is mainly practicing symbolism, which it's almost a form of writing, but it was not a written tradition. It was passed on orally generation after generation. And for example, my grandfather learned from his grandmother, and I learned from my grandfather. So already in the lineage of the family, it was skipping one generation. So he learned from this family lineage, and I started passing on this knowledge also to our young ones here in our community. In my case, we're not skipping one generation anymore because my children are learning also these traditions, and they're going to be able to carry this ancient wisdom, this knowledge of being in absolute communion and connection with Mother Earth, having spiritual allies to help us through our processes in life. In those years, my grandfather was a midwife, and he was mostly known as a midwife and also as a healer. So, because of the Catholic Church and because of the other religious sects, we had to keep our knowledge in secret, and we used to keep it in whatever rituals and ceremonies we would have. We would have it only in places where way up in the mountains, away from the community, kind of hidden. And this is how my training was with grandfather. This is how my training was with in these times. Now we can open up and we can share. Thanks to these technologies, we are able to share with everybody. And when I moved to the bigger city, I learned English. So I'm able to share this knowledge and these traditions in this third language, because my first language is Quechua. It's the Inca language. And then my second language was Spanish. And then I learned English. So I'm able to share these powerful traditions with no limitations throughout our communities, our land, and also throughout our planet.
Wonderful. And your mentioning of how you're opening up this knowledge to the outside world more and more so now kind of feeds into a question I had, and that is, you mentioned how you're beginning to, or already have begun teaching your own children this traditional wisdom. What about any, I guess you'd say, Westerners or outsiders? Have they come and wanted to learn in the same way as your children? Like, do you have any students that are not your own children?
Yes, in these times especially, this wisdom, these spiritual practices, these ways of living, rituals, ceremonies that we practice are for our whole planetary family. So I do have some students that come from abroad and learn here, how to work with the plants, how to access these subtle, invisible energies, this strengthening their communion with these spirit allies. I am also very happy to share this in our journeys, especially when we go to these sacred sites like Machu Picchu, when we journey through the Sacred Valley, when we go to Lake Titicaca. In these places, we have first direct experience of how these people still live the way they used to live thousands of years ago. And because of these living traditions, because of this living wisdom, it becomes a powerful, life-changing experience. So we are opening up all of our traditions, all of our knowledge to our global community, though we don't consider them necessarily outsiders or Westerners. We're all part of a family and a community globally. So when we share these traditions, when we share this wisdom, we're only sharing it so that they're passed on to the next generations without the limitations or the protocols of it being only for the indigenous people or only for the people of Peru. So these are global perspectives and sacred knowledge that is necessary to share throughout the planet in these times especially.
Thanks, Puma. I really appreciate your transparency. And I guess I kind of just said Westerner / outsider because I didn't really know how else to phrase it. I guess you just say people who aren't Quechua, right?
Yes.
And yeah, that's really beautiful that you've opened up your tradition in this way, and that you have that type of vision about spreading this knowledge. So you've studied from such an early age with your grandfather, and I think that this kind of begs the question, did you have any kind of really deep, intense initiation experiences during your training?
So for us, the initiations that we receive spiritually are simple ceremonies. They're simple rituals. For example, to arrive to a mountaintop is a life-changing experience because we consider a mountain pass is a portal. And, when we go to the top, we always come down through another pathway only because in the pathway that took us to the mountaintop, we leave everything that we no longer need to experience in life again behind. And in the new trail, in the new path, we integrate whatever we want to welcome into our lives. So that, for example, is an initiation. We have rituals that are so part of life, such as consciously blessing your meals or consciously arriving to a place so that you connect with the spirit of that place and you receive in return for your gratitude or for your being conscious. In return, you receive powerful blessings, powerful initiations. Our traditions are not so ritualistic only, but our traditions are a way of life. They're more about the perspectives, the conceptions, and the way you offer yourself, the way you experience whatever processes that we have in life. So these are all initiations. For us, when we wake up in the morning every day and we receive the sunrise, it's an initiation. It's a blessing that we're the children of that sun. We're the children of that light. And our life is to be lived as brightly as possible with our service, with our unconditional love, with making ourselves available in service to the different processes we can have with our family, with our community. Our main purpose and our initiation every day is for being in service, for helping the healing process of our brothers and our sisters in our community, in our family, and also globally. So these initiations are very subtle. They're coming from the invisible world. And all you need sometimes is to learn specific prayers, whether when you wake up, you give your first step with the right foot or the left foot. Each one of them have a specific symbolism. How you take your first breath in, every breath you are taking in the process of your family and your community. So sometimes with each breath you take in, you are taking in the process of your family, the process of your parents, of your brothers and sisters. So without you knowing, unconsciously, you are loading yourself with extra processes that sometimes they become overwhelming. So for this reason, we have a practice where in the morning when we wake up, as the sun is rising, we visualize ourselves inside a crystal. And when you're inside the crystal, everything becomes pure. Everything becomes clean energy. And you take a breath consciously, a big, deep breath. And in this way, you are giving yourself good health. You're giving yourself harmony, inner peace. So this is the way we begin our days in ceremony, and this is our initiations. We transmit powerful healing energy just with our breath, because we purposely intend our breath with love, with joy, with good health, even before we breathe out.
That's beautiful. I think that speaks to how it's really your path is the initiation, and it speaks to how much you've integrated yourself into this healing medicinal path. So that's amazing. And I guess the reason I ask about initiation is just speaking about the your pilgrimage you lead for Sacred Earth Journeys. I feel in a way, especially for people who may have not been to Peru, and especially the Andes and perhaps the Sacred Valley, for them it's a type of initiation almost.
Yes.
What do you think about that? Do you think it is a
When we journey with Sacred Earth Journeys, we're being initiated, we're being healed, we're being blessed. We journey consciously, we journey being guided by powerful spirit forces. It's a magical journey of self-discovery, healing, transformation, and awakening. All of our brothers and sisters who had come on our journeys have always experienced a life-changing experience, because they take from this land what we call alchemic treasures. And these alchemic treasures is not only the wisdom, is not only their experiences, but also the direction, the purpose that they go with after they've been on these journeys. So this being purposeful, this being conscious, this being awakened is an initiation, is a blessing that we receive in our pilgrimages. We call them pilgrimage because with Sacred Earth Journeys, we travel to unique places that are powerful, energetic centers here in the Andes that our ancestors have journeyed to, also in a sacred pilgrimage, for thousands of years. So we arrive to these sacred sites, and we arrive to them in a conscious way. We arrived to these places with powerful intentions, with a much more awakened, a much more conscious way, because a lot of people come here and, you know, it's part of the tourism. A lot of the people come here for the wonders. A lot of people come here to take the photographs, to experience the people and the culture. Here, with our Sacred Earth Journeys, we focus on all of that also, but a spiritual experience, a reconnection with an ancient spirit of the Andes, with the ancient spirit of Mother Earth, and therefore with a spiritual essence for themselves. Because when you arrive to this land, when you arrive to these sacred places, if you know what are the most powerful ways of experiencing these energies, which is, you know, what we know from ancient times, then you can receive more, you can experience more, and you can therefore make this experience a much more richer, a much more powerful experience for you. Otherwise, if you miss this, at least you get to experience our culture, the people, the food here is majestic. It's still coming directly from the land. So visiting Peru gives you the most amazing gastronomical experience. And with Sacred Earth Journeys, that's also what we like to highlight our experience on. We have access to specific places where there is the possibility of, you know, receiving delicious food directly from the land with the best, what we call Novo Andean cuisine, which is a union between culinary traditions of the Andes with global traditions of chefs and cooks that are well renowned also throughout the world now, Peruvian chefs.
Well, first, I think that's the first time I've ever heard anyone describe food as majestic. So I definitely believe you when you're saying that the food is really amazing. Early on in what you just said, you mentioned a bit about the term alchemy and how this type of journey with sacred earth journeys produces some kind of inner alchemy. And when I think of that, I kind of think of whatever you're exposed to, good or bad, you can kind of turn it into something golden within, whether it be difficult climbs to a mountaintop or going through rituals or ceremonies that might have some difficult moments and things. So those were really good reflections, and I appreciate that.
For us, these alchemic treasures are specifically that, the experience of being able to walk to the mountaintops up in these high altitudes. Because with Sacred Earth Journeys, the highest altitude we arrive to is 4,200 meters above sea level, which is about 14,000 feet above sea level. So it's, high altitudes. And by this time, we have a process of acclimatizing gradually from low altitude to high altitudes. And a lot of people believe they can't do it. And while it becomes challenging, while it becomes for them a goal to reach, sometimes the alchemic treasures for us is the patience, or just the taking it easy and the honoring your own pace. But I prioritize self-care, and I prioritize well-being, and not necessarily over-challenging yourself or overworking yourself. Still taking on the challenge while taking very good care of yourself. So self-love, patience, discovering your own pace, feeling free, those are those alchemic treasures we receive throughout our journeys and through our experiences.
Yeah, that's a very honorable thing to say, because ultimately these journeys will get people from different walks of life, at different people who are at different places in their own journeys. So that shows that this journey, your pilgrimage here, is really suitable for everyone. And
yes,
that's great. Yeah.
Yes, pretty much. Peru, because of the difficult geography and because of the high altitudes of the highlands, a lot of people have some fears and have some difficulties to come here, whether it's fear of heights or fear of dealing with the altitude. The first thing we do in our journeys is we transform those fears into excitement. We transform those fears into, the joy of looking forwards, of giving that step, because it is here mostly saying that these mountains are for people who have the heart open and are ready to experience this land without expectations, without fears. So that's what we transform first in our journeys. And people love it. It's even just that becomes a life-changing experience.
Excellent. And I think as we're talking about, taking these journeys and learning about your own ancient tradition, and initiation and pilgrimage, the question arises is why right now on the planet are these types of journeys and this type of knowledge important? What is happening right now on the planet that's calling this knowledge forth in this type of service, the type of service you've been providing throughout your life. It sounds like what is really ultimately driving this forward, and why do we need this at this time on the planet?
We need healing, and we need the support of Mother Earth. We need the support of these ancestral spirits in these times. For them, they become a powerful opportunity to help and support humanity. But because we are in difficult times where we feel limited and not so free, we need to liberate ourselves by journeying to these sacred places and reclaiming our freedom, our absolute freedom, and by reclaiming our well-being. There's a lot of reasons emotionally, psychologically, and physically why we're not well, because of all these processes we're going with the pandemics, with the closing of sites, closing of places, with this process we're going through, globally. So for this reason, there is a lot of inner struggle, emotional struggle of maybe I'm not going to be able to travel again, or maybe I'm not going to be able to connect with that powerful nature. So in a way, these days is revolutionary. It's liberating to be able to take on these journeys to reconnect with Mother Earth. And for me specifically, in the traveling processes, Peru has become very well established for safe tourism and safe traveling in these times. Like whatever protocols of protection and prioritizing the well-being of people who are visiting these lands have been established. So for this reason, Peru is a very good destination to travel to. And in these times, in order for you to liberate yourself, in order for you to give yourself that freedom again, I believe it's very special to come to these places, to travel and to take on these journeys. But the best of it, the best part of traveling right now is there are not that many people traveling. So places that are usually packed with tourists, like Machu Picchu, that used to have 3,000 4,000 people a day, now have 600 500 people a day. And in this mountaintop, people disappear. So these are the best times because you actually experience these places almost just for yourself. So this is like returning in time back to the 50s, 60s, where when people used to travel to these places anywhere in the planet, there used to be few tourists, not that many people there. And so you get to have a more complete experience of these places without it, without the hassle of being in lines, without the hassle of, having a tourist in front of you when you want to take your photo. So the best time is now because you get to experience it for yourself.
Yeah. Nice. So what has been the kind of most rewarding part for you about leading pilgrimage, and if you can bring forth some kind of specific memory or something where it could be with a specific person, or you can just talk about it more broadly. What's been rewarding, and what do you enjoy most about bringing people through the Andes? It could be specific sites that just leave people in awe, or ceremonies.
In our journeys, what I've loved the most is the joy, that deep and profound joy that people have for having these experiences that can only happen, through our sacred earth journeys, because it's a first-hand experience with the people, with the community. There is not only a cultural experience, but a family experience. So people, when they arrive here, they come as a community, as somebody visiting, a people of this land, and they leave from here having been family initiated, knowing that they have family in this land and they have reconnected in the spiritual level. And also the main reason why they've wanted to come back, why they wanted to return to Peru. One of my highlights in our journeys is when people are saying, that our journey is coming to the end, and they're either already excited because they're planning to return, or sometimes they're already missing this land and the family that they have reconnected with while being here. So that has been one of my highlights, because I always say, you have your brother here, you have your family here, you have your community here to return to anytime, whenever you would like.
Beautiful. And I think when people are learning about the journeys, they become a bit curious about maybe the ceremonies. They hear or read about there's going to be some ceremonies on the journey. So what can you describe about kind of the ceremonies? And I know you work with what is it, despacho and coca leaves, and what are these ceremonies all about? And what just kind of maybe for your average listener, what could they learn about these ceremonies and so forth?
When we journey, we usually, like in every pilgrimage, that saying, you need to stop to smell the roses. We stop a lot in our journey just to have a communion with powerful spirits. We believe life is a ceremony always, regardless of what you're doing in life. It's happening within sacred space, within sacred time. So, for this reason, we share a lot of this journey in ceremonial space, in ceremonial experience. One of the ceremonies that I love sharing is the oracle of the coca leaves, which is where you ask questions to this ancient spirit, and you receive wisdom or advices or sacred knowledge for you. Another ritual we have is we give offerings to Mother Earth with powerful elders, keepers of this ancient wisdom. And when we give these offerings to Mother Earth, we receive in return powerful blessings for our health, for our well-being, for finding love in our life, for having always the guidance in our spiritual journey. So we have also specific plants, spirit plants that we access. For example, we learn about the mints, the different types of mints we have here in the Andes that are really good for healing the digestive system. We learn about how some of these plant spirits are here to support us and assist us in our emotional, psychological process, but they're miraculous healing plants that we have access to, that we discover beautiful experiences with.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think also one thing people wonder when they hear about these traditions coming out of Peru and the Andes, immediately what comes to mind is the Inca. When people visit Machu Picchu and these sites, they think about the Inca. And I think that brings up the question is, what is the relation to your tradition to the Inca? Does it come from the Inca, or is it closely related? What are your thoughts on that?
In Peru, in the Andes, 80% of the population is what we call mestizo people. It's descendants, half Inca and half of the Spaniards. So, because we descend from the most remarkable ancient culture here in this land, we have these ways of life, these ways of seeing life that are also amazing and remarkable about our land, our people. The Inca people are still alive in these communities, in this land, through their ways of acknowledging the land, through the ways they work with agriculture, by still being conscious of lunar cycles, solar cycles, respecting equinoxes, solstices. You know, the Inca people were considered the children of the sun that never rises neither sets. So they were always considered as enlightened people, beings of light. And if the sun is in such a service to this earth and is facilitating and allowing life to happen in the most beautiful way, then the children of the sun also are responsible for making the life in our planet as beautiful, as bright, and in service as possible. So the Inca people left these beautiful wisdoms, these beautiful traditions that will live generation after generation for generations to come. And that's what you get to experience firsthand when you come to our communities. These ancient practices, simple practices, as always living in gratitude, always knowing that everything is a constant exchange, nothing ever goes one way. Simple traditions like Aini, which is, you know, whatever that you're receiving is a breath you take in. Whatever that you give is a breath you give out. And you cannot live here without breathing. So you cannot be here in this life without having this exchange constantly. Making that exchange conscious was the one priority of the Inca people. Making sure you're conscious of what you're bringing in and making sure you're conscious of what you're constantly offering to family and community.
Beautiful. Thank you for that reflection. And finally, I just want to ask, what is your hope for anyone who decides to join this pilgrimage in September, or anyone who's thinking about it? What is your hope for them? Just as yeah.
It's an invitation, and the invitation is for all of our wonderful brothers and sisters that can come on this journey to make it happen, to give it to themselves, to be generous with themselves, because it's a self gift and it's a self offering that will only bring for them, you know, infinite blessings, miracles, magical experiences, and a new life. We always have, you know, even just going through a tunnel for us is like going through the womb of Mother Earth. And when we come out on the other side, we're already reborn. So give to yourselves this new life, give to yourselves this gift. It is not easy in these times to take these journeys. So for this reason, you are also warriors. You are also powerful leaders. And do it for yourselves. Give it to yourselves. And we here as a family team, as your community, we are going to do everything that is possible to facilitate this process in the most beautiful, in the most magical way possible.
Thank you. I love how you really phrase this act of just saying yes to the journey as basically an act of self-love.
Yes. So say yes to this journey as an offering for yourself, because you love yourself unconditionally and you love yourself infinitely.
Right. Well, for anyone tuning in, this has been Puma Quispe Singona. He's leading our journey, Heart of the Pachamama, coming this September 2021 through the Andes of Peru. Thank you for your time, Puma. It's been really wonderful speaking with you.
Thank you, my brother Jacob. Thank you to our Sacred Earth Journeys for, manifesting these magical journeys for our family and community throughout the planet. And Peru is calling you. Puma is inviting you, and you just need to say yes to yourself.
Thank you, Puma.
Thank you, Jacob.